Hey there, multi-prep teachers. You know how professional development never seems to quite get to what we need? It's like, great idea, but how do I make this work when I have 3+ preps to juggle? That's exactly why I created the Simplify Your Preps Collective. It's a free Facebook group built just for teachers like you, where we share tips, resources, and real talk about making multi-prep teaching less overwhelming and more doable. Sound like your kind of space? Head to kristenmasick.com/collective and join us today. Let's simplify together. I think we all can agree that March is the longest month out of the school year. Maybe you're lucky enough to have your spring break during March, but I happen not to be, and it is just nonstop. Very difficult to engage students and then also engage myself. This is really a tough time to keep that motivation going for all parties involved. So today we're going to be talking about refreshing your best lesson plans and rinse and repeating them so that you can make it through the month of March. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. The strategy we're going to talk about today could happen any point during the school year, but felt like it was really fitting at this point if you're thinking about spring cleaning and how could you really look at what has gone well so far this school year and save you some time by not having to reinvent the wheel. So that is what our main focus is going to be on, is we are going to be talking about updating lesson plans first off, and then secondly, rinse and repeating them. We're going to look at updating lesson plans. I would not suggest you go too far back and make notes on things that need to be updated that you didn't already make notes on in the moment. Really looking forward from here on out, if you have not been making quick notes on however you are lesson planning, whether you're using a plan book or you're online, or even if you've got some sort of like post-it note system, some notes to remind yourself what needs to change for next year, you can start that now. So be documenting what to update for the following year. It will make your time useful and it will save you tons of time by not having to remember what went well and what didn't go well the previous year. You had tried an activity and it totally flopped, but you're not going to remember that next year when you teach it again. And at that point, you will remember it. So if that does happen, make note of it so that it doesn't happen again the following year or following semester. Now we're going to move on how to step-by-step rinse and repeat your lesson plans that are already working for you. The first thing is you have to evaluate what is going well. And hopefully you can have a few things that stick out in your mind. Now, these don't have to be full lessons. They could be activities, protocols, strategies that you're noticing that your students really resonated with when you did it prior. And it could be things that you have already rinsed and repeated, but more often than not, what happens is we think that we have to start things from scratch every single time. Like it will bore our students if we were to do the same thing over and over and over again. But in reality, humans, we like and feel safe when we know what is going on. So don't be afraid of reusing a strategy. For example, if your students really enjoyed a protocol like triangle, circle, square, which is where after you have a discussion, you talk about the triangle is 3 different points that were important, or they could be 3 things that they have questions about. So just mainly it's 3 things. You're getting the kids to think about 3 things. And then the circle is something that didn't work well, like you're still circling around it, you're still wondering about things. It's kind of like still making you spin a little bit. That can be for the circle, so just one thing. And then the squared is like, what squared with you, or what made sense, what worked, what jived with you. Maybe you could also have it where it could be something that's related to, like, this makes sense because I'm using it in other classes. So that's that protocol. If you've never heard about it before, I don't know if I did a great job of explaining it. You could do a quick Google search. But if your students liked doing that reflecting, then you can repeat and rinse and reuse that a bunch between now and the end of the school year. Go back, think about some other things that may have worked in your classroom. It could have been how you structured a project, and they really enjoyed that. You got some really good look at your data when it comes to how your students did on assessments. Was there a certain unit or lesson that they did really well on? And try to think about maybe what was the reasoning behind that. Was it that it was something that they could relate to? Did it have something to do with pop culture? What was it that made them more successful at that, and instead of something else? Now, you may not know all the answers to that. Here's the other thing you could do. You can ask your students, especially if you're teaching in a secondary world. You could even give them a list of some things that you've done. If you're not sure that they're going to respond back to you in something other than, I don't know, but you could have a list of the things that you did, even in the last term or the last unit, and maybe they can put a check mark by the things that they enjoyed and they would like to do something similar again. That will just get you kind of like a bank of what was going well. You're evaluating whether that's you, whether that's your students. If you also have had people in your class as far as a mentor or a coach, they can probably give you some insights on things that they saw that you did really well that is worth repeating. So here's the best part of it, is that you can come up with how you would rinse and repeat it, which, because you did it already once, more likely than not, you're going to be able to come up with some ideas. Set a timer so that you're not spending forever brainstorming. Maybe you've got 5-10 minutes. How could you apply what you are going to be teaching in the next unit to this particular protocol, strategy, lesson plan? But I recently found a cheat that you can use AI. Whatever AI you use, I was using ChatGPT because it's free and there's no paywall. But if you're at the school, and some schools might block it, you might need to use something else. But you can have ChatGPT do that work for you, or another AI do that for you. You could let them know, this is the unit that I'm going to be teaching next. This is the grade level of students, and I would like to use this strategy or protocol. Tell me how I could do it. And you could have it brainstorm several ideas so that you could choose. And then as you look through those, then you could zhuzh them up and figure out what is going to work the best for your students. The final thing that I want you to think about when you are refreshing lesson plans is the structure of the plan itself. Because maybe it wasn't the content, but it was how you laid it out that worked really well for your students. And if that is the case, then you should make a template of that. And there are all sorts of different ways that you can make templates of your lesson plans, but it could be that anytime you do a lab, this is the type of lesson plan that you're using. Anytime that you are planning on having the students do collaborative work, this is the type of lesson plan. This is the structure, so that it will just save you time in just plugging in things instead of starting from scratch every single time you are planning that new lesson. So for today's episode, you are going to have a little bit of homework, because I want you to find just one thing that you can rinse and repeat and do again for next week. Whether that is the structure of a lesson, whether it is a protocol, whether it's an activity, whether it is finding some sort of resource that you have already used that your students really enjoyed, just find one. And I challenge you to find a creative way of rinsing and repeating that. And if it works well, then make a template or save it and remember that. Keep that in your toolbox to be able to use again, because more likely than not, you can rinse and repeat that for all of your different preps. If this episode was helpful to you, it could be for others. The best way for other teachers like you to find this podcast is to write a rating and review on Apple Podcasts so that other teachers can find this easier. You can also shoot out an email to your teacher friends, or you can spread the word about this on Instagram. You can tag me and add me on your Instagram stories at Kristen Masick, KHRISTENMASSIC. Until next week.